Still looking at me.
What's up, mighty folks? This is the Mighty Avenger, the multitasker, and this is a review video of Tron Uprising Season 1. This was a long time requested from Collins Vincent that he wants me to watch and also make a review about it of all 19 episodes. And this is a courtesy from Disney. And before I begin, let me just first off, I'd like to apologize that I haven't done any reaction videos lately due to the fact that in my personal life, I've just been working my ass off. And I was exhausted, I was tired, I didn't have enough energy to react. So I hope you can forgive me, and I hope you understand what I had to do, because it's that time of the month. And Collins, if you are watching this video right now, I'd like to apologize in advance. I've been so caught up with work, just being sick and all, and not to mention the birthdays. But I didn't forget about the show. I said myself I want to take a break just for a moment, so I can try my best to try to catch up with all the episodes, and I did finish it. And now this is a good time for me to get to discuss of what I think about the series. And to be honest with you, I liked it, honestly. It was decent. I mean, it was pretty damn good. I mean, the CG animation looks amazing. The graphics looks very, very relatable to the movies, especially from Tron Legacy. It's just what happened. I don't understand how is that the Tron franchise died so soon. And I think I have an idea exactly what went on and why is it. So this is where I'm going to break it down to a few little things and the other moments of season 1 that caught my interest about it and how it be relatable. Let's start off with the story. So right off the bat, from the first episode, where basically the narrator explains that how Flynn created the grid back in the 80s, a long time ago, and to keep the grid become as a perfect system, he created Clue, a spinning image of himself, and of course, which Clue did exactly what he was programmed to do, except that he got a little hungry, power crazy, and wants it all for himself. So you already know how the story goes, and immediately, this is what from the story. It's directly a prequel that takes place before Tron Legacy. Now, keep in mind the fact, not too long ago, that Marvel Comics made of course, the first of the comic book adaptation of the first movie. Then they do I wouldn't say interlude. It was more like a prequel to it was a prequel, and it takes place after Tron movie, in which led to the start of the sequel. That it was a 30-year long waited sequel. So where does Tron Uprising lead to? So I would say in the assumption that with the Tron Legacy prequel, which is the comics adaptation, and then comes the series. So it's basically a gap between of the movies. So it all started because in the story that, of course, with Clue seeds power for himself, and the purge of turning grid into the most advanced and the most powerful system. Of the most powerful system that's ever known, and it comes rightly to the city of Argo. You have this programmer named Beck, who's just a mechanic. That's what he was programmed to. And of course, that bunch of soldiers that served Clue raided to their quarters, and give him a little awareness that this is a hostile takeover. Others tried to revolt. They got Derez. One of Beck's closest friends got Derez, and he revolts and tries to fight back. Nearly almost got himself killed, and he was saved by Tron, which everybody believed that Tron died in a long time ago, or in a long cycles, but not really, because Tron is alive, just barely. As you can see from the scars, from the face to the torso, that he's got really, really deep scars all the way down to the core, and he has this this healing unit that's supposed to heal up his scars. And the thing is, he can only stay in that unit, because if he steps away from it, the scars will start to multiply, go even deeper, and at some point that he will eventually die. In some ways like that, he sees Beck that there's some fighting potential and very inspirational from him, that he was destined to fight against Clue and his soldiers that wanted to simply to change of the new system to the grid. And that's basically that he chose Beck to be as the neutron for the uprising of a revolution. And that's what the story is all about. Of course, Beck was not really into it, because he's just a mechanic. And to me, it felt like this is a kind of a scenario of a teen spirit attitude, because Beck wanted to put a stop to it. And even though he wants to, he just doesn't know. He just doesn't have what it takes, and that's kind of puts him in that fear that he'll get himself killed. And that's pretty much understanding where he's at, because this is a level of a league that's something that he doesn't have what it takes. But a little bit of push of motivation, this will be the chance that Beck needs to do it. And that's, of course, where the story goes off, because it simply is about to explore the awareness and seeing of the endangerment of what's going on with of the purging to the grid, purging to the city of Arco that he lives. It's that it needs to be something like that's got to put a stand and put a stop to it. And of course, that the Beck is the main protagonist, and you have the anti-agonist, which is General Tesla, who is the general of the army that serves Clue. His subordinates, or second in command, like I believe it's Pavel. To me, Jesus Christ, this can I just say that this program is such such a big douche. I mean, comparison of Marvel's Loki, because both are very, very much alike, because they both are very deceptive, despicable, manipulative, and just full of narcissists. That's the way how I see it, because he's a big douche. Okay? Pavel is a big douche. And yeah, I find out that Pavel is voiced by Paul Rubin. You know, Pee Wee Herman. Jesus Christ, that was terrible. But other than that, that's who he is. And you got Paige, who's a very devoted soldier, but she does have a heart. It's just she doesn't know exactly where to stand or where you think that Tesla should be trusted. And given the fact that what he's capable of, he's a real son of a bitch, because it's simply put it's his way or the highway. Either you do what he says or get the rest. Plain and simple. And I mentioned about Tron, who was a supportive, who's considered as a supportive character, to push back, to simply have the right skills, hand-to-hand combat, learning to make the toughest decision, because when it comes to fighting back, that's on you, because you got to know what the stakes are and the risk you are willing to make. And he is the kind of guy that could give you some advice. And so far on, this is where all the story that goes through it. And of course, you have the supporting characters like Zed, who's one of the Beck's friends, who's pretty much as a typical dude who's always so cocky, and he's full, he's pretty much as a real, being concerned of everything to his surroundings, and not to mention his bike, because that's his pride and joy, because he put the works into it and tweaks it, and he doesn't like anything happened to it. Of course, Beck took it when he was at Tron. And you have Myra, who's a very kind of down to earth programmer, who's just basically knows when it comes to the right and wrong situations like that. And ever since the appearance of Tron showing up on Arago, people look to him, and some say he is the definition of a hero. Some, however, that thinks that he is a renegade. And ever since of Beck's appearance as Tron, Tesla and the others see him as a mediocre threat, and they brand him as a renegade. And that's basically, he's feeding with nothing but a couple BS's to get with the other programs on his side, that there's no such thing as Tron. He's dead. He's just a renegade masquerade himself as Tron to try to stir up and causing all troubles and mayhem. And that's where this little epic of adventures, of the struggle to simply rise and stand up against Tesla and Clue. And devotion is that to get people to see Tron's actions. And then of course there are some people are willing to stand up and fight for him. That's what the story's all about. So now I'll begin with a few things that caught my interest throughout the season 1. Let's see. Okay. Excuse me. I'm trying to grasp my mind about that. But other than that, ever since Tron has been causing nothing but destruction, causing all the ruckus, even at Tesla's dream, he was obsessed with it. So he thought this would be a good chance to rally up and make all these speeches to constantly that simply said, hey, if you want, I could give you the biggest reward that you can name of it if you can help me find the renegade and where he's hiding. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, because Tesla wants to put an end to it, because he's getting fed up of how Tron is basically just ruined all the Tesla's plans and almost got the beaten. And he just wants to put an end to it once and for all. Pavel sees that, and all this is nothing more than this is an opportunity for him to simply remove him, and sees that from Clue, and basically have him fired, and that will take that position to being as a general to his own command. And frankly, he tried and it failed. I mean, the whole point of that episode was every bunch of programmers are basically pointing fingers at like, oh, he's a renegade. He's a renegade. Everybody's completely paranoid. I guess comes from the digital world comparison to the real world, where everybody are blinded by greed. That if I want that reward, I would definitely rat it out to the person that who's revolt. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. And one thing I've started to see something else, that in the Scar episodes, that a familiar name that seems to haunt Tron, in the name Dyson. And at first, I wasn't quite sure who he is, but they started showing some backup stories of how it went through from the first movie and the sequel. That Dyson used to be working alongside with Tron back in those long year cycles, and because the fact that you have a group of ISOs that are basically unique programs that is completely different from the original. And the way that I see that, it kind of reminds me of the pages of the X-Men, how the mutants are basically are different from the normal people, which is known as Homo superior, that's a term for mutants, from the Homo sapiens, which is humans. And that's how it felt like to me. That is, and needless to say, that backup story was so deep, and it kind of gives you that question that who attacked the first? Who attacked the first? Even though that Tron tried to put the situation of the riots between the normal programmers and the ISOs, and it didn't go so well. So, and they just went mad and throwing their disc and energy sticks and just decimate every single one of them. That was brutal. Dyson's got the worst scar right into the side of his face. And moments later on, right out of the blue, Clue just shows up and just purified Dyson and Tron's team, and realize what's happening. And that's where it lead to that point, where that lead to that one scene from the Legacy sequel, that Clue's speech was, "Am I not the superior programmer?" Flynn goes, "Yeah. Well, I finally perfected the system to the grid." And what it means is that I'm gonna make a perfect grid without you in it. And that's the part where that that's the part where Dyson steps in and just ambush him, and that's probably where how Tron got those scars. And I think I might have missed that part, that he escaped onto those risers. You have to forgive me. I can't remember most of the names of those hover chariots or whatever. But he was saved by one of Clue's soldiers. He goes by the name of Cyrus, that saved him. And Tron did what he could to save him. And of course, and like any one of the most beloved characters who got scarred, and of course the wounds never heal. He loses. He was going to tend to dissect Dyson and get the information. He wants to. He wanted to do more than that. He just wanted to kill him, because the scars is still running to his skin, literally. Even though Beck tried to persuade him to say that there's got to be another way, and his emotions is starting to take over. He was almost going to kill him, but he didn't. So he got away, and of course, it's very clear that from Dyson that now he knows that Tron is still alive, and he wants to simply to find out information. Wants to find out exactly what went on, exactly how is he still alive, and do it privately to Clue. And speaking of Cyrus, yeah, it turns out this is the same guy that saved Tron, and he wanted to help out for the revolution, but he had other ideas. And so what he did, he was sealed up in an isolated cell that Tron created, with the help of Abel, who happens to be Beck's manager of the mechanic facility, and knows a little bit with Tron. So that's how he knew that Beck was the renegade. And speaking of the renegade, and yeah, spoiler, it turns out that Cyrus was trained to be as the very first renegade, and Beck couldn't believe it. He felt that he was deceived, and to make matters worse, he got out of the cell, and the first thing he did was to make Beck suffer. Twisted his mind, unclear his focusness. What a shame. And Cyrus disguised himself as the renegade into making people that turn against him. And it worked. And everything is all ployed out of his twisted plans, manipulation, and he actually know about Beck's friends, and he sees that he can use it as a leverage, where he basically tied him up. And also, the plan is that when he was disguised as Tron, he had that fake disc to simply to toy around with him. Not only to try to bring it back to him, but it was just it had a tracking device of Tron's location, and it was only a matter of time to simply debate him out and give back an ultimatum choice. It's simply as Are you going to save your mentor, or are you going to save your friends? And this was a tough situation. So given the fact that there was no other option, so, and of course that Abel was around, excuse myself. What happens that Beck went golden to save Tron. Abel goes in to save his employees. And of course that they were both managed to deactivate of those time bombs. And of course that even though that Cyrus was outnumbered, but that still didn't stop him of exceeding his plans. And unfortunate for Abel. And of course, Myra said, "I'll try to figure out what's going on. Why did they become targets?" And when Abel was just about to tell who was that program, and unaware that device was starting to reactivate it, and it was too late for Abel. Both made it out of there alive, but the explosion just disintegrated Abel, and Beck picked the wrong time to make it to the shore, and of course Mara was furious, and now that the threat levels now marked him as an assassin. Yeah, things got even much worse. I actually felt bad about it. And so on, and then comes to the final episode, all the way from trying to wanted to lay low as much as he could, but an old friend who came by to just bump into Beck and needed Tron's help. That Tesla was developing an ultimate weapon, and so as Tron, he made it and realized in it that it was all nothing but a setup by Cutler. Yeah, basically that mind control of this orange stuff that the scientist that was developing, that was forced to work against her will. Yeah, Tesla, you name it. And now the fact that the situation now it's much depraved. And to make matters worse, Tron is on the verge of dying. And it's not good. His condition is far getting worse. And with that healing chamber unit, it's not helping that much. It started to overload, and time was running out on him. So the only choice of that matter is that if the renegade surrenders to Cutler and have his memories erased, but there's another option. If Tron surrenders and can be cured, but obviously they intend to try to control Tron with that same mind control. So that's one thing they won't suspect, that Beck will be infiltrated from the inside of the ship. And yes, Tron was cured, almost being taken, but whoo, Tron is back, baby. And of course, fighting to the head on from the inside of the ship. And of course, Pavel is trying to take over the mechanical facility, and being as a jackass, he just wants to trying to coax himself and try to feel relaxed. That's typical for him. And not realizing that things are about to go down. And Cutler was down to the one last option that he was going to take. He was going to try to kill himself with a remote detonator that could wipe out every last one in that ship. And Beck basically just removes his mask, and through Cutler's eyes, he was struggling to try to shake off of this mind control. And there's that sinister laugh. I think that's quite similar to Clue. And he took a suicide dive, and Beck tries to save him. He wanted to help him, but it was too late for Cutler. He's long gone. And Beck made a tough choice. He let him go. He let him go and fell off to his own death. And the ship got crashed down. And this was the time that Mara said and the others to fight back and take a stand against Pavel and to Tesla. And like a coward he is, he run off and he's like, screw this. And this was that moment that the revolution has just started. And out of from the shores, Clue's master ship just showed up, and there he is with Dyson, and tell him that there's an incident over at the city of Arago. And his last words was, good. Let's pay a visit. And that's it. That was the end of the first season. That's it. There was no word or not mentioning that the season 2 was going to happen. And so after seeing episodes and how it gets so good and it gets really brutal at the time, and I think the fact is that the show was pretty gritty and dark and gloomy kind of style of the series. So I doubt it has nothing to do of the budget or how expensive, even though technically it is, because that, you know, the money of the technology, how of the art style and the graphics. It looks really good. But I think the reason that the show canceled, because of the fact that yeah, I did say that how the show was dark, gloomy, and gritty, and it can be brutal, given the fact that how how the show was something that nobody didn't expect it, because of the fact this was a Disney Channel, a Disney DX, I would say. And that's something that the kids are not really ready for. This kind of that could be so gloomy, and there would be kind of killing, or should I say D-res, given the fact. Let's show some let me give you some of the describable of how brutal, like the fact that killer that betrays Tesla and tries to run away, but got apprehended by Paige, and being brought back. Hopefully that given a good word from Paige, that hopefully that Tesla can forgive her. He did, and he's got those gauntlets that simply drains and derails her in the most painful and agonizing way. Not to mention how the fact that there's a lot of a body counts of it being derezed, and the fact that how cold cold and dark-hearted that Tesla can be, and to Parvell. I think that's the real reason why it canceled, and that season 2 was not going to happen, because it was just because this is something that the viewers of the kids may not like this, and that will kind of scar them or haunt them in their dreams. So yeah, that makes no sense. And I kind of get it, because it's from Disney, and that's something that no one would expect that. And the last thing they want is to have another season that's going to be more brutal and more tortures that's already happened with few episodes. But it was actually good, or perhaps it was too good that this was going to be a disaster. And I think that they just don't want and the Disney just wanted to live up their reputation that this is a kids and young teens channel, and they just didn't want the whole killing and torture or the brutalizing that the images that could be considered graphic. What a shame, though, because the series did have that full potential. And it shows a lot of few backup stories that's relatable from the movies. Like there's this a familiar ISO from the Legacy movie. I forget her name. And if you're gonna try to bash me on this one, look, it's been a while. I haven't watched Tron Legacy like I used to. I've watched it a couple times. And it's still good, because this is a long time coming. And the fact how Paige discovered that she was an ISO from the beginning, and she felt betrayed, and how she became as one of the Tesla's as a second command, or the fact that there were tons of few backup stories that I did mention about. From the Scars episode, and the fact that, not to mention how Abel figured out that Beck was the renegade, and there was a really interesting this confrontation between Abel and Tron, that they know each other a long time ago. What a shame. And not to mention that the show had a good cast, from Elijah Wood, Nate Corddry, Mandy Moore, Reginald Johnson, which quite a few people don't remember him, but I remember him as the Carl Winslow from Family Matters. Lance Henriksen. You have to forgive me. It's hard to pronounce his last name. Lance Henriksen, but he's the guy who's basically known as Bishop from Aliens and Aliens 3, and of course I did mention Paul Rubin. So it had a really good cast, really, and given the fact that this was considered as a first project. And it's just, it was a disappointment. If I would say that right now, I would say that give Tron Uprising a second chance. Make it happen. Give that second season only for the Hulu exclusive, and that way we can know exactly what happens next, and that will go right directly to Tron Legacy sequel. I would love to see that. And I'm not kidding when I say that I did watch the entire 19 episodes. And it kind of boggles my mind of that. What happened? I mean, it's just still it was amazing. It was amazing series. I hate the fact that how they wanted the cancelization of ending a series that is far from finished. Like the fact that Daredevil season 4 is not going to happen, or Iron Fist, Luke Cage. That kind of sucks. Well, hopefully that I would be much enjoyable once the Punisher season 2 that's going to be coming out. So I will definitely, I would be binge watching like a son of a bitch. But other than that, do you think that the fact that Tron should be Uprising again for season 2? It may be a wishful thought, but I would love to see that, so that the story will continue, and hopefully there will be some more references from the movies and that ties to it. But that's one thing that's going to be remains unknown, and just a wishful thought. But other than that, that's it for my video. It hopefully is not a jarring, but again, I did enjoy it, and the whole purpose is not to try to give a whole explanation of every episode. Just the main ones that I like the most of it, that ties to the movies, if you get what I'm saying. So hopefully you enjoy that, and be sure to smash those likes. See if we can get more, like, to say, like, give it a 10 likes. And also leave a comment down below if there's any other request that you want me to do, whether it could be from the series, or there will be a certain video you want me to react to. Please, don't hesitate. Just write it down on the comments, and I'll do my best to give my impression. Now it's time for me to do some unfinished business I needed to do. But with said, I'm Mighty Avenger signing out. Peace, and I'll catch you on the next video. Take care, guys.